Hey, this is Jeff. Welcome back again to the castle. Today I'm speaking with BlueLotus. Lotus heads a positive and welcoming channel on Twitch. Besides streaming games, she also has chat nights and positivity-focused streams where she invites her community to be part of the show. I asked Lotus to talk with me about streaming content outside of gaming, as well as her approach to talking about mental health with an audience. After our interview, I put Lotus through the speedrun, our rapid-fire question and answer round. Lotus, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So we know each other, or I know you, through other streamers, through mutual friends.
Yeah.
But I don't really know your background. I don't know how long you've been streaming for.
So I've actually only been streaming since February of last year, but
Really?
I
Oh, okay.
made my account back in 2010 in TV days.
Yeah, right.
But I was always way too shy and self-conscious to start streaming. But getting to know people and having them be kind of open about their mental health and admitting like, hey, I feel anxious as hell before I hit go live, it made me be like, why not? Let's just try it and see what happens.
Talking with other streamers, I've had conversations where they've told me in real life or in person they feel like they're quite shy or pretty reserved, and it's so much different for them when they're on stream. It almost feels like it's a therapy for folks like that. And I'm going to put myself in that same boat too.
I agree with you there. I'm almost like yin and yang at times, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I'm very reserved in person, but there's certain people, I don't know how to describe it. I feel comfortable around them right away.
Yeah.
Or there's people I see and I could tell they're really shy. I always try my best to help them feel comfortable. But then there's other times where I can't get out of my own discomfort and I'll just be very reserved.
Can't get past that shell.
Yeah, it's tough. And I can never tell how I'm going to feel on a given day, which sucks. But for Twitch, I try to not think about too many people watching me at once because I've always been bad at public speaking, you know? So I don't pay attention to the numbers too much. And I know there might be people out there like, what? How are you going to grow if you don't really care about numbers? But for me, it's not really about wanting to hit partner. I don't think I would be good at that. I think then I would get too scared and feel like I'm not good enough for it, if that makes sense.
Too focused on the numbers, do you mean? Or just more...
Yeah, and worried about letting people down. Like they might want me to be a bit more performative or change things up a lot. And for me, I kind of want to be organic and be myself. So
Yeah, right.
I know I'm going to mess up once in a while. I'm not trying to say that I think there's anything wrong with performative people. There are a few streamers that I watch and they're really fun and they're so great at engaging with people.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have told me, hey, I'm more extroverted, or I've just had so much practice with streaming for a few years. It's really easy for me. I don't know if I can handle that. With being an empath and stuff, sometimes I have to take a break after a stream. Like if somebody comes in and they say something heavy. So I'm trying to be more open with like, hey, you know, I'm all for talking about mental health, but there's a time and place for things. Like sometimes coming in a stream when people are talking about happy things and dumping something sad and like, okay, I feel better. Bye. I'm going to go to another stream or I'm going to go stream myself. People have done that a few times and it hurts me really bad. I try to not show it, but I feel like I absorb their feelings and I can't always get rid of it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you there. I have a real hard time putting up boundaries when I'm live. I don't want to shut anybody down.
Do you have tricks for that? Because I have been trying to learn that, but I don't have my own therapist right now. So insurance here sucks ass.
Yeah.
And they told me, like, hey, if you want to get teletherapy or anything, especially with COVID now, the way insurance is, it's going to cost you $150 per session.
Oh, my Lord.
And I need trauma therapy, which is hard to find a trauma therapist. That's why I want to be transparent to people and be open. Like, hey, I could easily hide all this shit and bury it down and no one will know what I'm going through. It's kind of like that whole don't judge a book by its cover thing. You know, we're all going through things and some people talk about it. A lot of people don't. But I want to normalize mental health more, our struggles. It's so tricky though. I suck at boundaries. I pissed somebody off recently with trying to enforce a boundary because they were going through a bunch of things at the same time. And one thing they were going through involved another person I know, but I didn't get all sides of the
Oh,
story, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tried to tell them, like, hey, I'm getting panic attacks from talking about this. I'm having a lot of issues with my own physical and mental health at the moment. I can't be here for that. But I think they took it to mean that I didn't want to be there for them at all. They got really mad at me and blocked me on, like, everything and called me a fake support system, and I lost it for, like, a week. I kept crying every day. My husband's like, "What's wrong? Don't take this so serious." I'm like, "No, this person was my friend." It's so hard, especially through text, to convey emotion and be like, "Hey,
Absolutely.
I do give a shit about you, but right now, I'm not in the best place to help you out."
Yeah, right.
And I don't want things in my own life, if I'm struggling, to then pass to that person. So it also caused me to think, like, how is there a way where I can somehow through text convey, like, hey, I am here for you, but I can't be here all the time. I have borderline personality disorder, and I was still trying to understand that. But the thing about my life, too, is sometimes I look back and I'm amazed that I'm still alive. My dad passed away from lung cancer from asbestos poisoning a
Oh, my
month
Lord.
before I was born. And my mom knew a while before he died that he was going to die. And she did drugs a few times when she was pregnant with me. So I was born slightly preemie. She had like no
Mm.
one. No one in my family seemed to understand her mental health struggles, even though they themselves had mental health issues. And she turned to drugs to cope. My brother and I, my brother's like almost 3 years older than me. He and I were neglected a lot growing up and abused by some of the babysitters, but my brother
Oh, my
was
Lord.
tough. Like he learned how to fight. I couldn't defend myself against an adult. And I felt like in some aspects, I had to grow up way quicker than other people around me. But I found out since I was abused basically since shortly after being born, my brain has developed differently than people that grew up in
Yeah,
loving
right.
environments. You know, it's that whole nature versus nurture thing. And there are people out there that can overcome that and grow to be like super successful. And the thing is, I buried so much pain down for so long. And sometimes I would cope with drinking or getting high, but I never did like anything really harder than that, like some of my friends would.
Mm-hmm.
And a few years ago, I don't know if you heard me talk about it or anything when I was asking for help with my dental surgeries. I was assaulted in Manhattan in a JC Penney on an
Oh, my
escalator of
Lord.
all
Okay.
places by a stranger because one of my friends, I was living with her and her husband at the time, she found out that one of her best friends was brain dead. And she told me that she drank all of my rum that I had. I thought that happened at that moment in time. So I was trying to rush to get home, but it apparently had happened yesterday. And I thought she was home by herself. There was this guy on the escalator blocking both sides. Now, I don't know how it is in the other places, but here, you know, on the escalator, you usually stand on one side, people walk on the other. I had people behind me trying to go down, say excuse me a few times. This guy started cursing me out and waving his hands in the air. When people scream in my face, and you know wave their hands at me, it triggers my PTSD from growing up
Yeah,
because I
right.
used to get hit a lot. And I mean, for even people that weren't abused, that would kind of set off alarm bells like, hey, this guy's about to throw hands or kick your ass or something. I was like, I just really need to get to the PATH train. I have to check on my friend. Can you please just let me by? There's people walking behind me and he's like, you're a stupid fucking bitch. This isn't, you know, stairs. It's an escalator. And I managed to squeeze past him, but he started screaming that I hit him. My body didn't touch his. I turned sideways when he was turned to scream at me. And then I saw his hands go up. So I reached out and I touched his chest and I said, get the fuck away from me. Big mistake. He punched me as hard as he could. I went
Holy
flying off the
shit.
escalator. The problem is, though, Jeff, not a single person came to my aid. Not one. Hundreds of people went by, families went by. I was bleeding all over myself. I saw the cop footage after. He came up behind me and he was about to punch me in the back of my head when I was on the ground. But his wife stopped him. But then she was screaming, probably because to not make him angry, that I hit him. And he told people that I knocked him off the escalator. This guy
Oh, my
was
Lord.
huge,
Yeah, right.
huge. There's no way. And I was like, how could I have hit you off the escalator when I'm laying on the floor covered in my blood and you're huffing and puffing? So the only person that came up was after like a couple minutes later. She looked like she must have been like 17, 18's like, do you want me to try to keep him here till the cops arrive? And I said, no, he might hit you. Just get him away from me. I wasn't thinking clearly. They had like a detective on the case and all the guy did was email me and nothing happened. And
Right. Jesus.
after that shit happened, I was working as a medical assistant at the time and everything went downhill. My boss kept saying like, "Oh, Ilona, I know you're getting more anxious and stuff. You need to see a doctor." Everybody's saying you're being mopey. It was just my coworkers saying that and I was like, "Yeah, I have PTSD
A
and we
mopey
don't
is a
have
funny way to put
insurance."
that.
Oh gosh. No, but the thing was, they didn't like that I wasn't constantly asking them how their day was. I was doing my job just fine.
Right.
Taking care of the patients, I was able to immerse myself because I found the problem with me is it's always easier to pour yourself into other people, to lift them up, to take care of them, than it is to be like, hey, I have these issues that I need to address. Because I didn't know how. I wasn't equipped with the tools. I couldn't afford therapy. I couldn't even really afford to see a doctor that much when I was sick. And go figure, working as a medical assistant, right?
Yeah, that's
uh,
unreal. And I'm speaking from a little bit of a place of ignorance here, but when I've heard other people
mm,
talk about similar situations, the way you
hmm
describe pouring yourself into other people, that's a really great fix for them temporarily. But
It
then
is.
at a point, it crumbles, that it comes crashing down and
It
you have to deal
does.
with your own
It
issues.
does.
And it's difficult if you don't have those tools.
That's why I try to tell people too, but I've found sometimes I have been told that I attract negative people. Like I get in my
Oh,
head that I can fix people. And that's
right.
something I realize about myself too. Like I tell people, hey, I'm not trying to fix you. But sometimes I don't know what it is. I don't have kids or anything, but I almost
Hmm.
get very motherly on people. And I wonder if it's because I know my mom loved me a lot. There were times, when she was fully present because she was bipolar and manic and add drugs on top of that with her health issues. Doctors would give her pain pills for her
Right.
back and all this other shit. It's just like she wasn't always there. And sometimes she would just be the meanest, most hurtful person. And I learned how to be that way myself for a while growing up. Like I would be cold. I would talk back to my teachers because I was hurting. And that's all I was used to is people hurting me. So anytime someone would be a little bit nice, I was always hesitant of them. Like, when is this going to, again, come crashing down, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it usually would. It would. Some of my mom's friends died from drugs when I was little. One of her friends, this broke my heart. I had one of the worst cases of chicken pox that you could get in kindergarten. So
Oh,
I was
no.
like 5 years old. I had it everywhere. And one of my stepdad's best friends apparently had some type of immune disorder, autoimmune disorder.
Oh, I see.
I still don't know what was wrong with him, but because like he knew that my stepdad was in the Marines and sometimes would go away for weekends, because he was in the reserves, and my
Hmm.
mom would be drinking at the bar. Sometimes no one would be taking care of my
Right.
brother or I, which was bad.
You guys are kind of fending for
And
yourself.
which we didn't do very well, understandably. And my brother resented me for it. Like for a while,
Uh,
he thought I was the reason why our dad passed away. So he
oh my
used to
God.
beat the shit out of me. But my dad's friend caught my chicken pox, which when you're older is more deadly. So he
Right.
had shingles and he was in the hospital and he actually passed away.
Oh my God.
And my parents told me, and here I was, a 5 year old, having to process that, hey, he was sick and he caught this from you and now he's dead.
Oh my
So for a
God.
few years, yeah, I thought it was my fault.
Of
And
course. As someone that age, if you're 5 years old, that would stick with you so hard.
it did. And they never really talked to me about it like, hey, it wasn't your fault or anything. It's just, here I was thinking I had this positive light in my life, just this warm person, and then they were gone all of a sudden.
Oh my God.
And it's, I sometimes look back at these things and I'm like, did this shit really happen? Like how did I at that age manage to get myself up every day and just go through life? I mean, I fucked up a lot. I did. There are a lot of people in my past that I've hurt unintentionally. I've broken hearts. I've cursed people out. I spent a lot of time in my head just thinking of things like, hey, you're hurting a lot, but you don't want to hurt other people. There's so much pain in the world already. It's better to just sit and think, why am I acting this way? If it's something I can help and fix, then try to work on it. But if it's something that randomly happens to you, like that assault, I learn now I have to be careful with what I say to people in public, but still, sometimes my PTSD will trigger if people get too close to me or
Of course.
give me funny looks and things. And my husband will have to be like, hey, you're okay. I'm here with you. You know, they're not going to hurt you, which you don't always know because there's a lot of wacky people out there.
Yeah, right.
But that's why I want to talk about these things because it sucks, but that's kind of how life is, right? We're not really happy all the time. Oh, DB, you try and get me? You try? What the fuck are you? Yo! No! No! Get me in!
You know, when you tell these kind of stories, like this shit doesn't happen to me when I was growing up, right? I don't have to worry about people's unpredictability. I'm a big dude.
Mhm.
Nobody goes off on me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm becoming more and more aware of this, not only because of talking with people like you, seeing what people are posting on social media, but I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and worrying about her and worrying about what the world has for her. It's like, oh yeah, shit, this world is not the same for everybody that it is for me.
That's true. At least you're paying attention to it. Because there's a lot of people, I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter. They're like, well, I haven't seen it. Must only happen to you. I don't believe you.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I don't think I would have vocalized it that way, but when I was 16, I think maybe I did feel that way. You know?
Hmm.
Your own reality, what you see is what you think the world is,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And I think in some aspects, I feel lucky with where I was born, despite, the things that happened to me, because growing up in New York City, I was around such a melting pot. Like our
Mhm.
neighbors were from everywhere. I had a Puerto Rican stepdad, even though he wasn't blood, his family accepted my brother and I as if we were. So I had fond memories at my litas, my abuelita, my grandma,
Hmm.
where she would sing and she would make food. And sometimes we would get to stay the night there. I swear her apartment was haunted, though, to this day, across my heart.
Yeah, for real?
But her kindness, like she was so much more kind to me than my mom's parents were.
Oh,
It's
wow.
kind of, I told my grandma, my mom's side recently, 'cause she's the only one I have left, but I was like, you were really scary when I was little. You were so mean. She's like, really? I was like, you used to smack us. Did you forget? But, sometimes I meet people and they're like, oh, well, over here, it's just, us, like my culture. It's not mixed.
Yeah,
I
right.
just find that so weird because I'm not used to that. I'm used to talking to people from all over and having friends in different countries when,
Yeah.
AOL and all that crap came out.
Uh-oh.
But
Oh, that's ICQ. I'm mixing up my sound effects here.
yeah, ICQ too.
Just to link that back a little bit to your streaming, because you had said that sometimes you think that you attract people that you want to help, or that they're
Hmm.
drawn to you, or you're drawn to them. I do find sometimes when I'm live, and I've talked to other people that stream, that say that sometimes they feel like a little bit of an emotional punching bag, that they feel
Hmm.
like target practice or something like that. Like, do you find that that's the case? Because your streams, they're not all just, oh, I'm going to sit down and play a game. You talk more deliberately about mental health. You talk more deliberately about self-care and that sort of thing. Do you find that it draws a different kind of person, and that sometimes that can be more challenging?
It does sometimes because I've had to talk to a couple of people because I don't think they realized necessarily that they were doing it or that they were
Mm.
doing it intentionally, mind you. But I've found that there are a lot of people that they have this hard outer shell about them and that maybe
Right.
they were checking on people, but their friends weren't checking on them. They don't outwardly say that they have mental health issues or they feel like their family's misunderstanding them. But
Or
a
maybe they feel like there's
problem,
no space for it.
yeah, that
Yeah.
too, depending upon the culture as well,
Hmm.
having to hide things. But the thing I wanted to try to convey to people when this happens is like, hey, I often run on an empty cup and I can't do that for too long. It's
Yeah.
not good for you. So sometimes I need to kind of take a step back. But there have been times where I would check on people and they would vent to me, but they'd never really seem to give a shit how I was doing. Even if I would
Hmm.
be like, hey, I'm having all these dental surgeries and the dentist messed up a few things, which happened recently. I have to get another surgery for 2 crowns. So every time I brush my teeth, my mouth bleeds. And last night I brushed and used the water pick and my mouth was filling up with blood and I was like,
No.
yay! Yeah. Sorry
Oh, I
to
can't
make
hear it.
anybody cringe about that, but, and all of this shit happened because of that assault. You know, I didn't get any support from my family from it at all or help. I had to get
Jesus.
nose surgery for it,
Oh my
which
God.
thankfully my husband and his family helped pay for because no one in my family like seemed to give a shit. My own brother told me that he doesn't think I have PTSD because I wasn't in the war.
Oh,
And I was like,
Jesus.
okay,
Such a
thank
narrow
you.
definition, yeah.
You know, with the community and stuff, I tell them, like, hey, I have a lot of trauma. So sometimes I need to have space, but it's nice when people also are like, hey, how are you doing? But not everybody does that. And I think they don't realize that they're doing that. Some people they have a harder time talking to people. Like, they'll tell me that, like, hey, I don't always know what to say. Or there's a few people I know that said that they have autism. And depending upon the levels of that, they're not always good at social interactions or showing people that they care.
Right.
But problem with me is my borderline personality disorder will sometimes be like, hey, these people are taking you for granted. Like, they don't really give a shit about you. They'll just like send you a message venting, but they don't care if you're sad or if you want to like talk to someone and feel like you have a friend. And then I have to kind of stop and just be like, you know what? Not everybody is like you. Not everybody has gone through the same things as you or has the same level of empathy, and that's a good thing. That's the way the world is. You know, there isn't always a balance, even though we wish there was. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to get better, Jeff. Like, I want to explain things to people in a way where it doesn't potentially hurt their feelings, because same thing happened with Discord before, where I have, you know, a mental health support channel.
Right.
And there were a few people that kept posting in there, but almost treating it like, hey, be my therapist. And because I am a smaller streamer and my Discord's pretty small, it's not like those bigger communities where a bunch of people will jump in and be like, hey, I'm here to support you. So sometimes it was just me. And if, you know, I was having a
Yes.
crappy day with my
Mhm.
TMJ, with my jaw, getting migraines, recovering from surgery, or just dealing with my own mental shit, I would look at that and I would cry sometimes and like, I want to help people, but like, I'm not getting help myself. And I tried to tell a few people, hey, if you're going to come here, please give back, even if it's just like a nice appreciation for the people helping you. And if you can, if someone else needs some support, just be like, hey, I'm here to listen. I may not understand, but you're not alone. And a few people did not like that. They got
Oh,
very, very
really?
mad at me. And I'm just like, how the fuck do I explain this without sounding like an asshole? I felt like an asshole. I don't know.
Oh, you're such a jerk. Oh my God. I am
Ah,
feeling bad though, because I lurk in your channel all the time, but I barely say anything. So
no,
I'm a
no,
taker.
don't, no, no, no,
Oh, I'm
not at
just messing
all.
around.
That's
Yeah.
a thing. That's a thing too. Sometimes I lurk in channels and I want to say hi, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not feeling super chatty right now. I'm feeling anxious. Or what if I say something stupid? Or what if the
Yeah.
people don't like me being in here? Because there's been a few streams I would go in a lot and they feel kind of clicky. And you
Yeah.
say hi
Totally.
and you're like, how is everyone? And nobody answers. And I have an overthinking brain. So my brain
Yeah.
will be like, Ilona, they don't like you. You suck. You're annoying. Just fuck off already. And I'll do that. I'll fuck off. It's terrible. It's terrible. Oh, that one was kind of funky at the end. It was like, that was like 3 burps in one. There we go.
Honestly, I spend a lot of time, like if I'm editing the podcast or if I'm editing a
Mm.
video or working on something, I'll just throw on a stream on the other screen just to kind of have something in the background. I have a hard time watching smaller streamers when I'm doing that because I want to engage. I want to talk to them and be active. So I go, no, I got to go to the big stream so I don't have to feel like I have to be part of something.
Do
You know
you
what I
feel
mean?
bad for lurking? You do? You shouldn't feel
No,
bad.
I wouldn't say that all the time. No, it's more like with a smaller stream, to me, it feels like it's a relationship, for better or for worse. You know, maybe
Hmm.
that's wrong of me to
No, it
feel
makes
like it that way.
sense. It makes sense.
But if I go into your stream, we don't know each other very well, but I know if I say hi, you're gonna be like, oh, hey, I know your name. You know what I mean? Whereas if I go to, I don't know, one of the big ones, you go to Tim the Tat Man, and if I say hey, it'll just get lost in the chat. You know, it'll be gone before you see it, right?
That's true. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, for real. It feels like a totally different thing to me. But I've
Mm.
found since I started watching affiliate level streamers, I don't want to say lower streamers, it sounds like such a diss, but it's very much a back and forth. Whereas
It
if I watch a big
is,
streamer, it's like
yeah.
watching a sports game where it's like everyone in chat's doing
Yeah,
the
that's a
wave.
good way. That's a good way to put it. And there are times, I'll even go into people that I consider good acquaintances or friends.
Hmm.
And if no one's talking, I'm like, crap. Do I have enough energy to really keep a conversation going and cheer them up?
Yeah.
But there's been a few people I know that kept talking to me about numbers. And then they even mentioned mine. And I was like, please don't talk to me about mine or just mention that I had someone, they meant it well, but they're like, yeah, you're a small streamer. If you ever get bigger, I could be like, haha, I knew you, but yours is so small. And I'm like, I know it's small, and I'm okay with that. You don't have to say it in a negative way,
Okay, but there's
and it's
to me, there's
tough.
something toxic about that. And I think I'm guilty of this too, to be honest with you. Can I ask
Hmm.
you, do you watch a lot of smaller streamers?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Is it mostly people you have a relationship with, or do you ever seek people out that you don't know?
So the thing I love most about people is I don't really care what people are doing for a living, but I
Mm.
care about their mindset,
Yeah.
like what people's passions are, what
Hmm.
drives them to do things. So I try to seek people out once in a while, playing smaller games
Yeah.
or doing just chatting. Although some of them I'm just like, it's just their friends in there. So I feel weird. There's actually a couple of people that I met when Twitch things, geez. Twitch Sings was a thing. I can't
Oh
sing that
yeah.
well.
I do remember catching you singing though. I remember that.
So bad, so bad. But I was like, let's have fun with this. And then
Yeah,
there's
for
a
real.
few people, I wouldn't say like we're close friends now or anything, but I'll go
Hmm.
in their streams and they're just so sweet. And everyone that goes in there will be like, hey, how are you doing? And you could tell they genuinely care about themselves.
Yeah.
And there is one partnered streamer that I love to go in. His name is Sorry, Sorrey. And at
Oh, this sounds
first,
familiar.
you know him?
Well,
Yeah,
I
at
don't know if I
first
do.
when I saw his stream, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's so loud and like there's stuff going
Hmm.
on in the background. But the weird thing is, there have been other streamers like that, and it creates this anxious feeling in me. I guess it's, my PTSD and stuff of just my heart rate goes up and I feel like super awkward. But he was talking about being a vet. He also has borderline personality disorder. He
Hmm.
mentioned that. And I just kind of like popped in and watched him play some Fall Guys and chat. And
Yeah.
he's really fucking funny. But one thing I noticed is he's so good at keeping up chat engagement. And I'm like, it
Oh
felt
yeah.
really inspirational. Not that I want to try to reach his level ever one day. I don't think I could. But just seeing somebody be open about that and just like, yeah, we're all just going to hang out. And when you go in there, like people will see you and be like, hey, how are you doing? And he does these selfie Mondays thing to hype people in the community up. It's just so fucking sweet. And there's a few streams I stopped going in because one person, I won't say them by name or anything because I still think they're a great streamer, but they said to
Hmm.
me, like, hey, you used to be in here all the time and now you're not in here that much
Oh, that's
anymore.
gross.
And I was
Yeah, I'm not
like,
into that.
dude, I went in your stream when I was staying with my in-laws in France for a bit, and it's a different time zone and then people wouldn't say hi. Like I would ask people how they're doing, say hello, try to
Yeah.
interact, and then people were just very clicky. And I was like, you know what? I feel very unwelcome here. So I stopped going. I like when people support smaller streamers and they're not
Hmm.
giving them shit for it too. Because there's a couple of places I've
Yeah.
been in and they're like, oh, I've seen these small streamers do this with their stream and they're not going on YouTube or TikTok and you're just ruining yourself. Like, why not just let people have
Um,
fun?
because you're not trying to game the numbers as hard, and
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I guess if you are, you have to do those things,
Sure.
but
I think it's important if you're really focused on growth, yeah. But for me and for a lot of the folks that I talk to, I don't live in a world where I can commit myself to try to be a
yeah,
full-time streamer.
you have a family
Hmm.
and just super busy, so you do what you can.
Got a family, got a mortgage, got car payments, all that fun stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
But to close the loop on the thought that I had there, I do find that there is people that will go into smaller streamers' chats and they kind of want to set themselves at the beginning and they want to grow with the streamer and say, I was here at the beginning with you, so you owe me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen that happen to a few of my friends, and
Mm,
oof. It's that parasocial relationship
yeah,
too.
absolutely. Have you done a lot of studying on parasocial relationships? Because I'm super
Not
curious about it.
not enough, just a
Mm,
little. My friend DJ Mule, who's an amazing streamer by the way, he's talked about that stuff a little bit, and cuz I was telling him I've noticed, I mean, I'm sure that there are a few streams that I've gone into where I probably thought someone was my friend, and the streamer's
mhm.
probably like, as soon as they end the stream, you're just out of their mind. So I'm sure it happens. I don't want to say like, oh, these other people do that. I'm sure I have done it too, definitely. But yeah, I've
Oh
seen
yeah,
a few people getting mad at some streamers for growing, and I'm like, no, you should be happy for them. If this is their dream,
absolutely.
support them, you know?
Absolutely, but you know what I do? I feel like I've done that a couple times myself where I haven't vocalized it or I haven't been outwardly toxic, but I have felt a
Hmm.
little bit like they're really doing something here and I feel like I'm getting left behind and it's made me kind of reevaluate myself
Oh,
and go, be happy for them. This is a positive thing. Like don't be an
that's
asshole about this,
human.
yeah?
That is completely human, though,
Yeah.
what you're feeling, because it's like the whole tribe thing in a way. You
Mhm.
had a nice, cozy community, but then other people could be coming in, perhaps that act differently, and could be in a way almost threatening that environment you're accustomed to. And especially now with, COVID going on, it's hard to have a good support system in place. So I don't think there's anything bad with people feeling that way a little, just as long as you're not being a dick to the streamer, right?
Yeah, for real.
Because
Yeah.
some
I am a
people
cranky
will be.
baby, but
Hey, I can be a cranky baby too.
there
It's
you go.
okay.
No, but I think it's one of those things I can recognize it myself when I start to feel that way. I go, yo, reevaluate how you're feeling here. Like, what's going on in your head, right?
Yeah, that's the thing though. I think more people need to try to be insightful and introspective with themselves, and that's how we grow.
Maybe someday I'll figure out how to do that.
I'm still learning to. It's okay.
I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on the communities in streaming around mental health, around positivity, around your self image, and that sort of thing. Because I do find that there is a certain aspect or a certain group of streamers that are using that for their own growth. Have you experienced that at all?
I've heard of it, and I've seen people use the tag but not really talking about mental health, or they'll say like, I don't have mental health issues myself, but I
Mhm.
want people to feel comfortable here, and I think that could be a dangerous thing without them realizing it. And you don't know people super well sometimes when you're a streamer, right? Unless you're like
Yeah, right.
interacting with them and having deep conversations where people might suggest something horrible as a form of treatment. That's when it's kind of like, hey, you can just let people know that you're supportive of mental health, but you're not struggling with it or you have no
Mhm.
training in it. And
Yes.
there's like wonderful people like, Pilgrim,
Mhm.
um
I asked him the
who's
same question, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
who's going to school for that. So he has a lot of training and things. And that's where I
Yes.
tell people like, hey, I did want to go to school for this. I've taken psychology, but what I'm talking about is my life experience.
Right.
So what I'm experiencing could be different, even though we all live in the same main reality. Like what you and I were saying before, people do have their own little bubbles in a way. So something that might bother me or work for me isn't going to work for other people. And that's why I want to be transparent. Like, if I say, hey, try yoga, try this thing, maybe you need trauma therapy or something, it's not going to work for everyone. I had to stop going to a couple of streams too because they did have the tag. And I was like, you're attracting people here, and the things you're saying are not helpful. It could really
Right.
hurt someone.
Almost
Don't
under
crack
false
jokes about,
pretenses.
yeah, I've had people crack jokes about my PTSD
Oh,
right
Jesus.
after I
Okay.
was saying how it fucks up my life on a daily basis. And then I had a streamer, I actually blocked this person, probably one of the only people that I will never ever talk to again, who told me, like, well, Jim Jeffries, right? You could joke about everything. And I was like, I don't find
Uh,
jokes about rape funny.
mhm.
And I don't find PTSD funny. There's like a lot of things where you could crack a joke about it, but why?
Yeah, I'm with you there. That kind of shock value comedy doesn't do it for me. If you're talking about those topics and you find humor in it, I think
Hmm.
some people are really skilled and really talented with that. But I think for some
Yes.
people, just saying something hurtful or obnoxious is the punchline to them, and that
When
doesn't
it's
connect with me.
targeted at someone else's experiences, like a specific person.
Hmm.
I just find that very cruel.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, I mean, I've heard people make jokes about their own mental health, and I think that's kind of what you were saying too. Like, people can find a way to make that funny and interesting. But if it's someone that's not suffering from these things and they're just targeting something at you, why be
Yeah,
hurtful like
that
that?
humor
I don't
doesn't
know.
connect
Maybe
with
I'm
me.
too sensitive. I don't know.
That's exactly what it is. You're such a snowflake. Oh my
I
god.
am. I'm so woke too. Did you know?
God, just don't go down Twitter comment holes, man. Because people say that shit unironically all the time.
Yep, definitely do.
You know, it's funny
Silly.
though, in your channel and in Pilgrim's channel, you mentioned Pilgrim there.
Hmm.
Something that I've heard in both of your channels is someone in chat might say something and you'll reply by saying, dude, I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. This isn't an area of my expertise. Talk to an expert. Something like that.
Yeah,
Not
you
not in a
have to.
not in a rude way, but in a way that you're being upfront. And I think that's sometimes when I see people maybe misrepresenting themselves as an expert in a field that they don't have any business. That's what worries me.
Yeah, I get scared sometimes that I come across repetitive, but I'm always thinking in my head, like, hey, there could be a chance that someone's lurking in here and maybe they don't have experience with talking to a therapist or know anything about getting help. And they might be taking my words too literally and applying it to themselves, and it might not work for them. I've had a friend talk about autism, and I told him, like, I'm trying to learn through your experiences. I know your experiences with autism and Asperger's are different than other people's, but at least I will know how to better my interactions with you and
Yeah.
make sure that I don't potentially say something that you might not realize as a joke. Because she let me know that sometimes she has a very hard time telling sarcasm or when people are joking.
Right.
So that's something, like, a lot of us, if we haven't experienced that ourselves, I'm like, oh shit, I'm not even fully fathoming that there could be people I've had interactions with in the past that have had issues understanding things I've said. But it makes me think more about what I'm saying and doing moving forward.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it a little bit ago. I had to really reevaluate how I communicate in text, in
Hmm.
emails, and in text conversations because I'm always sarcastic, like all day, but people don't know that, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing too. So I always wonder sometimes, right? Someone could crack a joke with you, and if you crack the same joke at them, they would get mad.
Mhm.
But sometimes people might forget, oh, they're being playful with me. They're not being mean. I
Yeah,
know that
right.
they're playful because I've had these, but it could depend on that person's mindset for that day.
Yeah, right.
You know, there have been times where I've tried to talk to people, but because I've dealt with so much shit in my past that got buried, that I want to have uncomfortable conversations sometimes because otherwise things won't get fixed. I will sit and fixate on something for hours. Like, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? And I can't figure it out. So
Hmm.
that's why I want to talk to people and understand them better, because I find people so fascinating.
Absolutely. That's exactly why I'm doing this here on this
Yeah, it's
podcast, is
so
because I love talking to
cool. I
people.
love it. Okay, wasn't it like Oh my god.
I want to go way back to when we first started our conversation here, though, because there was a couple pieces of irony that I wanted to go back to. You said you don't pay attention to your numbers.
Mhm.
You're not keeping an eye on your viewer count too closely, which I think is a bit ironic because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your numbers they've been up recently, have they not? The past couple weeks?
They're not like great compared to other people I know, cuz I do have a few acquaintances that talk about their numbers, but I mean, obviously when you do a raid, you can see
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Like, let's say if people in my chat were talking and then they went quiet or they have to go to sleep. There's been a couple of times, where I felt like zombified. I'm like, I'm not going to do a raid because I would feel bad if people feel obligated like they have to talk to the person
Yeah.
I'm raiding, or, they're super tired or nobody's here anymore. It feels so weird. I get surprised sometimes that anybody is even watching and talking to me. So I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just rambling sometimes, doing like readings of The Hobbit or The
A
Silmarillion, my
Cimmerillion was
throat
about the other day,
hurts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the other thing I wanted to say, because you told me, you said earlier here when we were talking, you don't feel particularly performative, that you're just trying to be yourself. But you're also
Yeah.
talking about, and I think it's a great idea, by the way, you're also talking about getting into audiobooks or voiceovers.
I would love to do that because that is
Yeah,
something ever since I was little. I feel like reading and video gaming saved my life. Like,
yeah,
I have this massive imagination. I used to write zines and short stories
yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, play with toys. And I'm just like, there's something beautiful about the world of reading and video games where you can kind of escape for a bit. That's why, like, when I read, I'm like, I want to try to do voices, but it's so hard to do these masculine voices. And I'm like, ugh, start coughing. And I mean, I guess now that I think of it, that could be a way that I could try to be a bit more performative. You know, I've had a few
Hmm.
friends on Twitter today giving me tips how to take care of my voice. And
Hmm.
I think a goal I have is I would like to write a children's book
Oh, wow. Okay.
and ask my husband Chris to perhaps do like a few words in English because his sister, she is living in Australia, but her and her
Oh, well.
husband are French, and the kids don't really know French. So
Oh, okay.
I was figuring like maybe we could come up with a thing and have it be like a way to teach children a few words in French while they're learning English. And maybe
Yeah.
that could spark something and it could be fun with the parents to do. Like, I wish I could have had something like that. My mom taught herself Hungarian from my dad, but
Holy
didn't
smokes.
teach me any. And
Oh,
that's like one of the most difficult languages out there. Because
is it so?
yeah, my dad was from Hungary, and sadly, I don't know like any Hungarian. I mean, I know egészségedre, which is when you do a cheers and a few silly words, but
Okay.
I get kind of envious, I guess, of people that have lives filled with culture and linguistics and stuff.
Before we wrap up, though, I wanted to ask you if you do have any goals about streaming. You had kind of said that you don't really have specific metric based goals. When you go live, do you have a particular goal for each stream, or do you have a long term goal?
I mean, I would like to grow the community a little bit and kind of foster a very inclusive, supportive environment. Last year, I did come out as pan, so I am part of the LGBTQIA community. My husband's been very supportive, so I also want to create a safe place for that. There's a whole nother thing about using that tag too, which I think some people that aren't part of the community and are allies don't fully understand. And it's
Yeah.
hard to explain through text. I would love to stream to do charity for Extra Life for children. So I kind of would like to, after I move and get settled, talk to a few of my other streamer friends and see if we can organize like a couple days of us streaming and rating each other and raising awareness about that. I also would like to do some charities for animal rescue because I love animals so much and I think they deserve better.
You had a live, you were one stream, this is going back now. I think it was in the summer. You had a live cam of some kind of baby animal. What was that? Am I right about this?
I do. Oh, I do that sometimes with the
Yeah.
reading streams. I'll find
Oh,
like
okay.
live cams of penguins or the
There you go.
kittens and stuff like that, just so people have something cute to look at too, and they don't have
Yeah,
to
right.
look at my face.
Oh, good lord.
I'm trying to think what else. I would like to join a team one day, but if there's, you know, a team out there where their focus is just about like lifting people up and it's not like, hey, we got to hit partner, not at that anything's wrong with that, but I know there are teams that that's kind of their focus, like let's get
Yeah.
everybody to partner and we'll do all these things together. But I just know with my mental health and everything, I wouldn't want to let other people down if I couldn't keep up. You know, it feels like a weight would be on my shoulders with that. So if I could find like minded people and be on a small team, I think that would be really cool. So I want to try to stream like 2 to 3 times a week and set a goal for myself to do that. And I think I'd be happy with that for now.
I think the goal police are coming to get you. Is that on my
I
side
know,
or is
I'm
that on
so
yours?
sorry. That's on my
Oh,
side.
okay.
I'm on the 6th floor and you could still hear it that
Oh,
well.
there you go.
Ah.
Where can people find you online?
So I have my Twitter. Sadly, I'm not the Blue Lotus on Twitter because someone has that account.
Oh, no.
I've tried
The
to see
worst.
if I could message Twitter about it because the person hasn't used it in like 10 years, but my Twitter is the underscore Blue Lotus. I have a website, which is the bluelotus.me, M-E. My Twitch page is the Blue Lotus. I made a TikTok. I'm not going to share that yet because I don't really know how to use it. I'm too old for this stuff,
Us
but
old
everybody's
people
like,
with the kids tech,
you
yeah.
need this TikTok to grow. And I'm like, let me just check it out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing what people do on there, but
Oh yeah, there's some really creative stuff for sure.
yeah, I want to learn more. But
Speaking of
yeah,
which, you've got art for sale up on this website, I can see.
I do. So I have made acrylic pour paintings. I have a series. So this is really funny to talk about if I can really quick.
Of course, yeah.
I had a reclamation series. So I have had body dysmorphia since I was young because some of my family that I've lived with have had eating disorders
Hmm.
and it's kind of weighed on me. So even when I was a lot skinnier, I would look at myself and I would see like a different person multiple times that day if I saw myself in a mirror. And I still struggle with that now. So I'm trying to be kinder to myself and be like, hey, you don't necessarily need to be super skinny to be happy. And this is not me cracking on anyone that is skinny or anything like that. I'm talking about myself.
Yeah.
But I decided to make these paintings using my body. So some of them have, my fingertips, but then I also used my boobs. I was like, let me be creative with this. But when I've talked about it, as you can imagine, some of the comments I got from people were a little crude.
Oh, I can imagine.
Are you going to sell yourself covered in paint? Like you got a photo of that? And I'm like, trying to talk about, body positivity. I tried to price them based upon like time and materials, but I
Mhm.
haven't sold these before, so I'm gonna adjust that soon because I don't want to price them too high. But
No,
yeah,
you gotta value yourself. These are 3,000,
I
four
know it's
thousand a
not
piece,
for
easy.
no. I wish. Imagine put that in the MoMA.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm amazed when people have said nice things about it. Like Pilgrim, I'm gonna mention him again. He said
Mhm.
such nice things. My friend Mandy did, and they've just been so supportive. And I think the past year I've met the most incredible people through Twitch. And I think my life is so much better for it too. And I wish that for everyone, honestly. Like, I hope that they can find lifelong friends through there. But like I said, remember the parasocial relationship thing
Yeah, right.
too.
Totally with you. Well, that's such a good note to leave on too. Thanks very much for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. This has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. Are you good to stick around for the speed run?
I am.
Awesome. Let's do it. Thanks again to Lotus for joining me today. When she's not searching far and wide for the One Ring, you can find her slinging good vibes on her Twitch channel. Check it out. Coming up next, the speed run. Alright, Lotus, you ready for the speed run?
Yeah, let's do it.
I got 10 questions for you. I want to hear the quickest answer that comes to your mind, alright? Don't be thinking
Okay.
about these ones.
Okay.
Alright, here we go. What is the best Lord of the Rings character?
Sam.
Sam?
Samwise. Yes.
Which one is that? Oh, which is in the movies? I don't know the books.
For Sam, he helps Frodo the whole way. Frodo would have lost himself without Samwise.
Is he the oh, Mr. Frodo? Is he that
He
guy?
sure is, yeah.
Okay. What's
Share the
first-
load, Frodo.
What's the
Yeah.
first music album that you ever owned?
Oh, I can't remember, honestly,
come on.
but the funny thing is my aunt and uncle got me TLC.
Oh, there you
It
go.
was cassette.
Yeah. Yeah,
I loved Waterfalls. That was my jam.
that was the track right there, man.
Hell
That was a
yeah.
good album.
It was. Crazy, sexy, cool.
What was your favorite game from 2020?
I don't even know.
Oh, you gotta give me something.
No, I don't even know. The problem is, I've played so many games the past year. I don't know what came out last year.
All right, name a good one then. Give me a good
God.
one. from 2020.
I don't know.
You're so
Really-
slow with this. You can't do this. All right, marshmallows and breakfast cereal. Are you a yay or a nay?
For what?
Marshmallows and breakfast cereal.
Yes.
Yeah?
Do it.
Crazy. They're disgusting. What is the nerdiest thing that you own?
Oh gosh, a super old copy of The Hobbit.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I also have an autograph from Conrad Brooks, who was in Plan 9 from Outer Space.
No way.
I
don't know the name, but I
definitely
know the
do.
movie.
Yeah, probably. He played a police officer. May he rest in peace now. But that was like the worst movie of all time. And I met him years ago. We had a conversation.
Wow.
And I got his autograph.
That's pretty cool. What's your dream pet? If you could have any pet.
Oh my gosh, I would love to have probably a hawk, I think.
A hawk, wow. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Snatch your head
They're
off.
so
shoulders.
beautiful. I love birds. They're
Yeah?
fascinating. And owls, yeah.
Oh yeah, owls are cool. What book, if you could record any book as an audiobook, your voiceover, what book would you pick?
The Name of the Wind. I highly
I'm not
recommend
familiar.
that book.
I'm not familiar.
So
What's
good.
that?
It's one of my favorite books, fantasy book.
Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away, but highly recommend it.
I'd
I love fantasy.
I wanna talk smack about fantasy nerds, but I'm reading The Witcher right now, so
Yeah, you have the right to talk smack.
As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A veterinarian.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love
talk?
animals. I don't think I could handle doing that though. I cry too
yeah.
easily.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of a downer, but seeing how much is actually like putting animals down and stuff like that.
Yes.
Couldn't
Couldn't.
deal with it.
Could not.
What's the best soda?
So I don't really drink soda anymore, but I was
come
a
on.
huge ginger ale fan
Okay.
because it reminds me of my mom. I used to be sick a lot when I was little, and she'd be like, "Hey,
yeah.
Ailey, I got you some ginger ale," and I'll be like, "Aw, yes,
What are we talking? Canada Dry?
yes,
Okay, good.
oh yeah."
There we go. What's your guilty pleasure song?
Oh man, right now probably "Call Me by Your Name," like dancing around to it. It's a good song.
What is that? Did I know it?
Lil Nas X.
Oh yeah, right. That is a good track.
Or there's some Doja Cat up in there. She's fantastic.
All right. What was your favorite game from 2020?
I still don't know.
Terrible.
I can't remember what came out last year.
All right.
Not
fine.
even
You're too
kidding.
slow. You lose.
No, I'm terrible.
Thanks for playing.
Cyberpunk? No. Just don't use that.
Well, that's today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to The Castle on your favorite platform and share the show with all your fellow spell slingers and summoners. You can find me on Twitch, on Twitter, and on YouTube, all as Nether_Castle. Come say hi. We'll see you next time.